I'm here in Steve's back cave, for lack of a better way to describe it.
This is what you came out of.
Yeah, well, it was kind of crowded. There's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah.
It's cool though. It's cool. It's all cool. It's a lot of fun. I'm in town. We're doing some stuff with AMD, but I also brought an ARM system from System 76 because, yeah, it clicks. It's good. 128 cores. It's a monster system. We've got some content coming. Don't worry. This is also a 5 gigahertz super monster AMD EPYC system with CXL memory, and I've also got a keyboard.
Yeah.
Some flash memory here.
A keyboard I'm not supposed to type on yet.
Not yet. We'll get to that. But first, we're going to discuss things about the industry and just, some talking head stuff. It's fun. Steve's very tired because you just launched the tariffs video.
Hopefully by the time this goes up, yeah.
So a lot of interesting stuff there. It's 3 hours of madness.
Yeah.
You should check that out because I'm not sure what's happening in America, but a lot of people are hurting.
Are they affecting you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm having...
I need to cancel the upload and add that clip in.
No. It's fine. Yeah, no, it's really... It's surprising that it's like, a lot of stuff will come back to America. And it's like,
I mean, because like your KVMs, I don't know if this, I assume it's public, but are from Taiwan,
Yes.
right? So what's the impact for you?
Well, I mean, obviously the Taiwanese tariffs and all of that sort of stuff, but
Yeah.
some of the other componentry, and then like it's kind of a knock-on effect, and then it's just
Down
like,
chain
okay,
supply.
yeah. So it's not just a simple calculus.
Yeah.
It is also all of the stuff that goes into it. Fortunately, for my part, like the software aspect of it gives me a little bit of relief because they haven't figured out how to tariff software yet, I guess. But I still have to have like the raw ingredients and like put everything together and like do the testing and all the other stuff. And also things like repairs or testing. So it's like all of our USB chips are seconds. And so it's like, okay, I need to get my USB chips in and test them. And it's like, okay, am I gonna get tariffed on that? And then I send them back, and then they actually get assembled because I've tested them to make sure
Are
that
the
they're...
USB chips from China?
No, not usually.
Okay.
So they're from a broker. So country of origin technically is, but so far that hasn't mattered because this is like second knock-on.
Well, that was Roman. Roman said he had to go through their Bauer. He had to go through and weigh all of their products by material.
Yeah.
So he's like, this one has 3 grams of steel because it has a steel screw in it. Anyway, this all relates to your topic, which was.
I would like to use metal cases, but it turns out tariffs now are not, that makes it, it's just,
the topic has changed.
Well, no.
Pray that he does not change it again.
The topic is what's going on in the industry. And there's a lot of suffering going on in the industry right now. And
not just because of the tariffs thing.
No.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I mean, like fast forward, like at the mythological future, like what does a world look like where we have this? And it is an America where the institutional knowledge of these industries are still here. It is gone. It is not going to come back overnight. And almost certainly if you are an investor or somebody looking at, let's say that you want to build a steel mill. We don't have a lot of those. We have a few, not a lot. I'm going to build the most advanced automated, I went to GTC and I saw Jensen's thing. I'm all in on the robots.
Said robots.
Yeah.
Yep.
Never mind where those robots are coming from.
Right. Yeah. No. We don't ask questions of the robots.
But we've got the humanoid robots. We got the software. We got the digital twin. I'm going to. I have a website like GitHub, and I've also got an army of people.
I'm sorry, GitHub.
GitHub.
It's not pronounced GitHub.
No.
I'm just kidding. Yes.
What's happening?
So are you all in on AI? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
No.
We're all in on AI.
Oh no.
And robots, and we have a fully automated steel mill.
Okay.
All in. And but get this, because we have digital twin and because we have a GitHub for buildings and physical infrastructure, the people that go nuts with Minecraft Redstone, they're optimizing that steel mill design.
You've been saying that to me for a few years now. I actually do think you're onto something.
I don't think we're going to get there in 4 years.
I mean, Minecraft Redstone is kind of no joke if you're at, I'm sure you've seen the couple bit computers people have built in Minecraft.
Somebody built an entire 6502 in Minecraft.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
So with digital twin and full fidelity simulation, like what Nvidia is planning to do, and the humanoid robots, yes, we can get to a fully automated steel mill. And then that makes sense, because America only has 4.5% of the world's population, 5%, something like that. We're not going to be able to do this. We're not going to be able to be captains of industry unless we are 100% full tilt automation. One dude running the entire steel mill.
So yeah, I guess I wasn't sure if I should steer it back to other industry stuff like GPU prices and whatever, but on this topic, one of the things I've seen in some of the factories, like that Cooler Master has, it's all robots all the way down, and they're very cool, and it's only like one person.
Yeah.
So every
China's
time,
already there.
So yeah, some of the factories for sure. I mean, it's like anywhere, you know. There's a big range, right? There's like the old school, super unsafe, like just dark. They turn all the lights off because it's hot and there's no AC. And then there's the fully automated factories where there's one guy and it looks like, well, the one I was in, they basically rotate people through. So it's like 4 people. They do 4 shifts.
Yeah.
And that's it. And
Yeah.
and the guy just makes sure all the robots are on. So it's wild. I mean. The
institutional knowledge, the metagame of how do you do this, how does this work, what is going on, that is all, like, from what I've seen of operations in Taiwan and China, they have that, and they're always thinking about that. One of the most amazing things about Shenzhen is you have all these companies and all these like entrepreneurs, and they're not, it really isn't like a global conglomerate. It's like, you know, a couple of dudes, families own this factory, and they'll go talk to somebody else at another factory. It's like, let's get together and make our lives better by doing more automation.
There's a really interesting maker culture, specifically in Shenzhen, in a place called Huaqiangbei, but that you would probably like, where it's interesting because Wired did a documentary on it like probably 15 years ago, and I highly recommend it. But really interesting because it's basically the whole premise of it is there's not a whole lot of concern about intellectual property. And one of the innovators they interviewed for, the inventors, they asked him, why aren't you worried about IP and things like this? And he was like, well, if I'm still focusing on the design I made 5 years ago, then I'm in the wrong place. Yeah. Which I thought was very interesting. I mean, yeah, it's a complicated subject, but...
Well, no, I mean, by the same token, a lot of the problem here, see, like, the folks that are pro-tariff here will use words like regulatory capture. And regulatory capture, when you think about it in that context of what you just said, is a large part of the problem. It's like, oh, someone has invented a way for winding motors a little bit better, which is one of the things that's going into the humanoid robots. Is like, oh, it turns out for those kinds of actuators, you should tweak the motor design a little bit. And it's hard to get that done stateside, whereas in Shenzhen, it's just like, let's go talk to the people that make it. It's like, oh yeah, we'll be glad to do that.
But when you say like the industry is, I forget if you said suffering or pain or torment, but it was one of those. So like, what are the other aspects of that? Because GPU price is a big one, at least in the comments, and you know.
Yeah, GPU price is a big one because it's even, okay, we've spun up a lot of industry in Arizona. We've heard about the fabs in Ohio, which I think are delayed.
Yeah, I think so.
And so we know that Global Foundries, big operation. New York has a lot of foundry operation. IBM did a 2 nanometer invention. A lot of really cool stuff happening stateside, but then like volume production and things like that happening elsewhere. Now there is a lot of friction in the form of tariffs and everything else as an incentive to maybe bring some of that back to America. But the problem is that the kind of thing that's going on in America is not exactly the kind of thing, it's not fungible. Like, I can't just take this kind of production capacity and get GPUs at the other end.
Right. Yeah, it's very node specific.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just swap them. Like,
yeah.
Can I just hit minus and turn the 4 nanometer into a 2 nanometer? Like,
this is something Wall Street has misunderstood forever. It's like, oh, Intel needs to sell off its foundries. And it's just, well, yeah. Yeah. But Intel's foundries, it's like, oh, but Intel's foundries and tooling is Intel's. And they are very... Historically, they have been outside the industry, which is why they couldn't just throw a switch and be like, oh yeah, bring your tooling and your libraries over here and we'll get it produced.
Right. The Intel ones, I don't think they've officially said this, but I think the Arizona ones are delayed because they were supposed to be 3 to 5 years, and I think the one we looked at broke ground, I want to say in like 2021. I guess there's time, you know, like, but it just seems like a year and a half is not a lot of time to finish construction and then fill it with equipment. So.
At GTC during the press event, Jensen said that he thought that he could get to a reasonable state for Nvidia within a year, and I assume that he was talking about TSMC production.
Oh, okay.
But he also hinted that they had, had some stuff produced at Intel. It's like, oh yeah, we would. He said, I think his exact words were, oh yeah, we would totally be an Intel Foundry customer. We're talking to them. That could be something for the future, which is, obtuse. And it's like, that's kind of a non-thing.
That's such an executive level. That's such a public company answer, where
we
it's
would
like,
totally be their customer.
Sure, yeah, we would consider it, you know, like, yeah, okay.
And then you have things like HBM, like Samsung and HBM, and like Samsung leaning hard into the HBM thing. And, South Korea's fine, but also still tariffs. And it's like, again, semiconductor, it is a global operation to produce a semiconductor. Look at, like with AMD, I think Ryzen, we should ask the AMD guys this when they're here, but I think Zen 1 and Zen 2 is a global operation in the sense that you've got TSMC and you've got America, but you also have Germany and somewhere else. And so it's literally that CPU goes around the world 2 or 3 times before it's available at retail.
Yeah, there's diffusion in Malaysia. I think Singapore also. Most of the fabrication now, of course, is just TSMC, but Global Foundries was kind of it was 14 nanometer, right? That Global Foundries was on forever, and I think is maybe still on. I'm not sure. I've stopped paying attention to them, but and then Intel. Currently, it seems like Intel, I think, is kind of the big one to talk about still, which is weird because it's just been shrinking and having a terrible time lately. But because it's been such a titan, it makes it seem like it's still kind of the center of the industry in some ways, even though Nvidia is the one that actually has captured all of the value. Yeah. So Intel's where, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know if people realize how many specs they contribute to and maintain. And all this standardization and like all this stuff.
PCIe.
Yeah, ATX, 12-volt high power even. Yeah. Intel had some contributions on that and related to PCIe and PCI Chem, the mechanical spec.
MRDIMM.
Yeah.
Well,
12-volt high power, they it was mostly Nvidia driving that ship. Truck, train. Yeah. I don't know what you drive, but it was mostly Nvidia. But Intel, so Gordon had interviewed someone at Intel who worked on the 12-volt high power spec when it was first starting to burn up. And we contacted that guy at one point and asked him if he would still talk about 12-volt high power for a different story. And he was basically like, I don't want to ever hear about this spec again. Like that's,
there is some. I can fill in a little bit of more information on the other side of that from when it was an Intel spec. Apple was also driving that, and the 8-pin spec. There's a version of that uses the same physical size connectors but with solid core pins, and that appeared in Mac Pros and the Xserve and a couple others.
Okay.
And they had breakout cables to go from that to 150 watt GPU cables.
Oh, okay.
But also 300 watt accelerator cards. And so, as far as I know, in the Apple ecosystem, there were not instances of that connector melting, but it was just a smaller version of the ATX 12 volt power connector standard. But solid core pins.
Right. If the premise is everything is in chaos, you've got the tariffs and all the global topics, but then what else to you is there anything good that's happening in the industry?
So one positive take on this is that the entire rest of the world may unite, not against the United States, but kind of like unite because,
we're still on the tariffs. It's fine. I'm ready. I've been working on tariffs for like a week. I'm ready.
Well, no, I mean, it's not just tariffs. It's also like the industry and everything else. And so like these global multinationals.
It's like when you start a sentence with like, I think it's fine. The entire rest of the world will unite. Like, What's going to happen? What's going to come out next?
It'll be fine. It's like it's like Grandpa's having a rough time, and it's like we'll put him in the old folks' home, and society will continue on, and it'll be fine. But maybe that's good. It's just like it's a cautionary tale for the rest of the world.
The train has gone off the tracks.
Yeah.
Not just in this video.
Well, we're still kind of under the premise. It's like, what do we have going into 2026? I was thinking more pedestrian, like, hey, is Intel going to come out with something? There's some new rumors from an Intel CPU. Oh, they're changing sockets. So I guess we're not getting new CPUs.
We got doom and gloom pretty fast. It's kind of hard to come back from that once you start there. So anyway, how about those CPUs?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know.
You told me I should try Arrow Lake for rendering videos.
Yeah, just because of the...
And I found that deeply offensive.
just the quick sync thing, I would be morbidly curious. Because I was surprised. Okay, so he was doing a render, and the render doing the audio portion wasn't even using a single core, wasn't using quick sync, wasn't doing anything. And it's a 12th gen, because 13th and 14th gen, come on. But quick sync really does get the job done, and quick sync is interesting. And so I was like, well, maybe a Core Ultra 9, because there are some improvements there to the iGPU, XE graphics. And then you countered with, well, I mean, as far as that goes, I could just do like a B580, and that's a good.
Yeah, if it works. I'm not sure how well that works at this point, because we would still want an NVIDIA GPU in there.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's interesting. Like the video I was rendering that he was looking at, it's the 3-hour-long Tariffs one, and it's really disappointing to look at the resource utilization, because I so badly want to actually build a Threadripper system to use for my machine for editing, and it's using, like you said, 1.5 Intel 12th gen cores, and then once it actually renders the video, it's like 80%, that's a 3090 Ti, I think, in that system, and then 90+% IGP QuickSync.
Yeah.
Which it shows how powerful, I guess, the software side of things is and all that, because it's really that QuickSync feature in Premiere that keeps us on Intel desktop CPUs.
Yeah.
Which is insane, because they're worse than everything for anything else we want to do, except for render videos.
So maybe worth trying the Core Ultra for its quick sync capabilities, and an Intel GPU if the driver part is there.
Right. Yeah. Then I can take one of the motherboards off the shelf that will have absolutely no use ever again.
Well, and also the 5000 series, because supposedly there is stuff in the studio driver for the 5000 series GPUs to make better use, and NVIDIA's added the 422 pull downs and things like that. So there may be, like, maybe you can just run it on the GPU, and then you get your Threadripper wish.
Well, that would be nice. I just kind of want a Threadripper system because it'd be fun, but...
Yeah. Lots of cores.
Yeah.
We've also got Ampere. There's going to be another video where we talk about, is x86 screwed? Be sure to check that out on Steve's channel, because that's going to be a lot of fun.
What about the NVIDIA drivers situation, though? Have you been following that?
Yeah, the black screens. Yeah,
the everything.
Well, and the instability. Yeah, it's not. This has been brewing for a long time, and this is partly because Blackwell architecture and all the changes that come with that, but also the long tail of legacy support and how you deal with like DevOps stuff. Like, how do we do automated testing of people have dodgy DisplayPort cables?
Right.
The video that I did years ago that is like, hey, your black screens are probably because of dodgy cables. I noticed that I started getting new comments on that video from Nvidia people that are having black screens, and like, oh yeah, it turns out it was a cable. I think, and I really wish
we saw a lot of issues with multi-monitor, mixed refresh, and then we were also able to repro the issues with specifically the new features like MFG and DLSS 4.
I would love to know from somebody inside NVIDIA, but this is the kind of thing that you never get a real answer for. It's always a press answer where they're like, oh yeah, that sounds good, go with that. But I think architecturally, it used to be the case that NVIDIA had some kind of a buffer that they would render to, and then that buffer was connected to your display. And so if the cable crapped out or whatever, it didn't matter because this buffer always existed. And I think they changed that now because of multi-frame gen, because of latency. And so now it's just rendering directly. And if the link is lost, then that causes the whole pipeline to stall, which causes a whole host of other issues, which is why it was
Do you think that would
architected.
be the root cause, though, of like... Because we had tried different cables and stuff, and actually, this is maybe interesting. So one of the things we saw in our testing that we didn't try to create an explanation for, we observed that swapping between monitor 1 and monitor 2 had a meaningful impact.
Yes, FreeSync, yes. Yeah.
Okay, so because it was basically like, I'm trying to remember the exact details in the video. I'm going to kind of mix some things up, I think. But basically, DisplayPort 1 at the top, DisplayPort 2 right below it. Sometimes we could swap those and get display back. Other times it would black screen. And then I think changing display 1 and 2 in Windows was like a workaround. What I didn't understand is why that would be the case, because any combination permutation of that where a specific display was 1,
Yeah.
it seems to be a non-issue.
It is. There is a layer of insanity there that is amazing. The DisplayPort physical interface. You have 4 channels, and the connector has to do a handshake. And there's 4 levels of gain by default in the physical DisplayPort protocol handshake. And so, if you have something that is borderline, you can get a display handshake that the monitor thinks that is completed a handshake, but it does not actually have a clean enough signal to do HDCP decode.
Okay.
Because it's encrypted, if there's a little bit of noise on the line, you'll either get RGB noise, or if there's more than a little bit of noise on the line, you'll get a black screen. And it is just strictly because copy protection. AMD went through these same kinds of headaches and all sorts of other stuff.
Yeah.
But the physical connectors on each display also have varying amounts of gain. So like there's noise, like this connector has 0.2 dB loss, this connector has 0.5 dB loss.
What's the reason for that?
Just physical analog variance.
Okay, just manufacturing variance, basically.
Yeah. DisplayPort 2.1, when it came out, for about a year, you couldn't get a full-size DisplayPort connector that had the signal-to-noise ratio variances necessary for DisplayPort 2.1 signaling, which is why everybody used the micro DisplayPort connector, which was also awful because those basically went from DisplayPort 1.2 to DisplayPort 2.1. The DisplayPort 1.4 version of that connector was very, very short-lived, which is insane. And it's literally just signal-to-noise losses through the connector. And so if you're doing a benchmark, and you get a little bit of noise on the line and it has to resend the frame, that will manifest in the benchmark as that frame taking a little extra time. But it was not the GPU's fault.
Is there a good way we could create a test to try and introduce that kind of interference?
Yeah, oh yeah, we can do that.
That would be cool.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. I should have brought some terrible, terrible cables. One thing you can try to do is add there's ferrite cable clamps you can get on Amazon for like $7. Those actually make the signal to noise ratio better by making the signal level lower, forcing the cable to train at a higher level.
Okay, so there's cable training too? Is this like memory training?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, this I've actually never heard of. So.
Yeah. So that's what I was talking about with like the 4 channels and the 4 levels that it'll train to. So yeah, exactly like memory training where it has to figure it out. That happens at the physical level. You don't normally have a ton of control over that at the software level. But that happens in the physical DisplayPort connection. And
is it training against something? Is there something calibrated that is being referenced?
It is loss from the connector through the cable to the monitor.
Okay, I see. So when you use the word training here, is it an active process? Is it a passive thing?
From the perspective of the wire, it's an active process. From the perspective of the GPU driver, it is passive.
Got it. Cool. Okay. We've gotten off topic, but this one is better. So
yeah, no, it's fine.
Now you have 2 videos.
Well, this is a lot of the suffering that goes into the DisplayPort KVMs as well, because the way the KVM works is if I show up as a device in the DisplayPort bus, which is something the protocol supports, then copy protection steps in, and Netflix and other things are like, oh, we don't recognize this thing in the bus. We don't think that we should allow you to have high definition content. And so I have to be invisible in the bus. For me to be invisible in the bus, I have to operate within the tolerance, the end-to-end tolerance. So cable plus KVM plus cable has to appear like as if it is cable.
But what's looked at to determine if it appears like it's cable? Is it this sort of signal you're talking about at the end?
The training, the EDID and the training process and all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Yeah. Basically, we treat the 4 DisplayPort signal pairs as an analog medium instead of a digital one. And there is gain.
Is this done in firmware, I guess?
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
So it's fun and terrible. And I'm oversimplifying and leaving some things out. But HDMI works similarly, except the EDID channel runs on a different pair, whereas there's digital communication as well as display signal communication happening on the 4 pair, whereas HDMI peels off the channel to talk about how we're going to do whatever from the display channels.
Okay. From your perspective, working on the KVMs, is it the same difficulty to go all HDMI, all DisplayPort? I mean, do you have to do the same tuning for both? Is one more sensitive?
DisplayPort has become more sensitive. HDMI chipsets are starting to enter proliferation because industries have realized that there are a lot of people that want a lot of HDMI functionality. Mm-hmm. And so there's a better choice of silicon available in the market from which to try to Lego together a solution.
Right.
And so our HDMI KVMs are technologically ahead of our DisplayPort KVMs for the moment. But we're working on it. We're working on it.
I don't know if we should get into this or not, but that reminds me of MediaTek and Nvidia.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah.
I don't know if that's a topic for this or not. CPUs.
It's a little bit of a mess, but it's fun. You know, I mean, it could MediaTek Wi-Fi. But yeah, it's a dark. It goes. You go down a dark path.
Their big thing is displays, right? I forgot what they make in the display that's in like most of them. But MediaTek, I think, is just in a ton of displays. That's where Nvidia started working with them so heavily. But the rumor is there's going to be a MediaTek Nvidia CPU, and it's going to be ARM.
Yep.
So
we're going to have ARM gaming laptops, and it's going to be real bad news for Qualcomm because it is going to look like what Microsoft promised. I think Nvidia is going to deliver.
But do you think that'll be on Windows also?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that because I literally just wrote a how-to on the forum for running ARM native Windows virtual machines on ARM Linux with PCIe pass-through. That's the thing that works. So you can run an NVIDIA GPU on Windows on ARM as a virtual machine as soon as the NVIDIA drivers are released. Right now, NVIDIA has only released native drivers for ARM for Linux, which also work in the VM, but you got to jump through some hoops.
And the other drivers don't exist yet.
They exist.
Nope.
We just don't have them.
They don't. They do not exist.
Woo. They're going to have to. Well, no, they don't actually, because we got Digits and Spark coming, but that's Linux native. So
Spark, as in
the
Spark.
No. Not SPRC, Intel or Nvidia's new ARM AI project thing.
Spark was Sun, right?
Yeah. And now Oracle.
Go.
Thanks, Larry.
Oracle's a great end for a topic that started with all of the terrible things in the industry.
It is. I mean, if you look at Oracle as a microcosm of what happens when literally everything is outsourced and you're only left with things, eventually you are just litigating intellectual property. And there is the argument to be made that a lot of what Oracle is doing in terms of the database is now obvious.
Enforcement of intellectual property. Yeah.
Which is, again, regulatory capture through some, I mean, not exactly regulatory, but it's like, we own the concept of a relational database at this point.
So I don't have to work. I've never had to use Oracle for anything, so I have no personal opinions on them, but the only thing I know about Oracle is everyone who seems to have a personal opinion about them hates them. That's all. I think it's the same as, like, for us, it's Adobe. You know, like, I use all Adobe stuff. I really hate Adobe.
Yeah, it's like that.
But
imagine,
what am I going to do?
Imagine Adobe, all of that acceleration and having literally no other choice depending on, like, Oracle software is not bad. It does the thing and it does it really well. But it does the thing really well, partly because Oracle defends things and partly because I can't believe they let Oracle buy MySQL. It's like, it complements our features. Zuckerberg, oh man, we could talk about the Zuckerberg trial. That would be a lot of fun. We'd grab our popcorn. But Zuckerberg on the stand was like, oh yeah, we totally bought them to crush competition. And it's like, you can't say that on the stand there, Zuck. Yeah, it's like, you're just not supposed to say it. It was in his emails. And so, Oracle buying MySQL and then we see, and then thankfully MariaDB and this kind of stuff. But then Oracle's like, no, we own. This is us. And so
I just liked their piracy defense metas, where they were like, we didn't pirate it, and if we did, we didn't seed it. And it's like, and when we reported that in the news, I just remember in the comments, all the seasoned pirates in the audience were like, that's even worse. Now you're a leech.
The other argument there was also it had no value.
Right.
It's like, oh,
right.
even if we didn't see it and blah, it's like, oh, it also had no value. It's like,
Well, I mean, I think when you need like 4 nested excuses,
yeah.
there's a problem.
No, the Zuck literally lost Meta the case just with his. It's hard to prove antitrust because it's like, what's your motive?
Right.
But he literally went on the stand and made it. It was worse than the Microsoft antitrust trial. It was amazing.
Is that the one where Gates was like famously deposed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
And they trapped him. I forget what they trapped him with.
Yeah, that was like a little bit 4D chess. This was just
He just said it.
Yeah, this is just like Mike Tyson punching a toddler the whole time.
No.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
But which one is Mike Tyson?
The lawyers.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And the toddler is Zuckerberg.
Zuck, yeah.
Okay, that I'm okay with. Zuckerberg's got enough billions. It's okay. He'll be fine.
It's like, what do you mean I shouldn't say this in email? There's at one point, there was an email from, I think it was the CFO, and he was like, Mark, if we are looking at acquiring Instagram as a complement to services that we don't offer, that's okay. But if we're looking at buying them to like crush competition, that's not okay under the US law. And I'm having trouble parsing your language. I think you're saying that their services complement what I'm saying. And his reply was like, no, you idiot, we're gonna. It's just like, oh wow, that's they found that email.
The lines were so wide,
Yeah.
and he could not read between them.
Yeah. So that was fun. That was fun and interesting.
At least the industry being in upheaval is entertaining.
Well, this is opportunity for everybody outside of America, because again, if the world, like, think about the possibility of if the rest of the world says, wait a minute, all this copy protection stuff is unreasonable, we should come up with our own, the DMCA is unreasonable, century-long copyright is unreasonable. If the rest of the world gets together and the human rights thing, like the EU's already been doing a lot of this. The EU's looking at, it's like, wait a minute, these corporations are like strangling culture and they're holding things forever, and like we can't build on this to make our lives better the way that things are happening in Shenzhen and everywhere else. I mean, we do have Meta arguing that because Asia and China ignore copyright laws, so they're able to train their AI and do all this other stuff, and we need to be able to do the same. And whether or not you agree with that.
Yeah, I saw you guys uploaded some kind of copyright law video recently. I haven't gotten through the whole thing yet.
That was really just a primer on the background. It doesn't, that's like part one. Part two is going to be like, this is for the future, but part one we wanted to do because there was going to be a lot of actuallys from the part two, and so like part one is the preemptive part two.
Okay.
So
I mean, one normally does preempt two, so that makes sense. You're
yeah.
spot on with the numbers.
Yeah, woo. So the rest of the world gets together and says, wait a minute, the United States is crazy for protecting its intellectual property this way. We're going to return to human labor, reward for human labor, as opposed to, people make money on intellectual property forever. And the reality is probably going to be a balance between
the
the two.
key words there, just so people don't miss them, but is you did have the phrase "this way," like protecting it this way, right?
Yeah,
because there's value to IP, but it do be a little crazy sometimes.
yeah,
especially the patent trolling.
Yeah, well, if you like, patents are a great example. Patents still expire after 20 years. Copyright is a century and beyond. Like, something ain't right there.
Yeah,
it's like we're protecting the software inside the Nintendo.
Well, just think of the liquid cooler world where, as soon as the Asetek patent became irrelevant,
3D printing.
Yeah,
the whole 3D printing industry exploded because patent expiry.
Yeah.
And if that were protected by copyright or special software or something,
another 80 years.
Yeah. MP3. If MP3 were protected by copyright and trade secrets, they patented it. The patent expired.
Oh, was that? I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Yeah.
And so the EU and other countries, while the U.S. appears to be having some sort of mental crisis, the rest of the world is able to look at it and say, wait a minute, the emperor does in fact have no clothes, and we could be better off economically if we maybe ignore some provisions of the DMCA, and maybe, and so I think that is another positive aspect of the current shenanigans, maybe.
Except for the
people in the U.S., yeah.
Well, I was going to say the continued explosion of bots and scam bots and comments everywhere. Not that they're like really, but as a separate topic, I don't know. We don't need to go too far into this, but you've brought your doom and gloom and peddled it, and I have purchased it. And where I am now bringing the doom and gloom is YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and everyone else Would sure hate it if the engagement numbers went down.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
Yeah, that is not fabulous.
Yeah.
Store.level1next.com. No. Hang out in the forums. Let's chat. Let's build some things for the future. This is one of the really exciting things too. Is some of the folks on our forum are fun employed right now, and but it gives us time to work on things.
I was about to ask where that was, and anyway.
But that's time to work on things, and so interesting things are coming out of that. But fun employment doesn't feed you and doesn't pay the bills. So I don't know.
There's always GitHub.
GitHub for buildings.
Yeah.
It's like I want my Minecraft players building us our most optimized steel mill, because it'll be real life Factorio, and that'll be amazing. It's like, oh, we can deploy the picker module and the thing and the other thing. It's like, boom, steel at the other end.
So you heard it here first. Submit your Minecraft Redstone steel mills to Wendell.
we got to get Nvidia to open up the Cosmos and the metaverse thing and like the digital twin stuff, and just that has to be open source, and it has to it should be the GitHub of that simulation. Like Siemens has got to get on board, Ansys has got to get on board, Cadence has got to get on board. They have to see this for the big picture society changing thing that it is, and right now those companies are also really concerned about protecting their simulation intellectual property.
Right.
I mean, like Ansys and Cadence, but we need our simulated full fidelity down to the screw steel mill simulation to bring about the this new age that we're talking about.
In Minecraft?
Probably in Minecraft first, but maybe IRL eventually. I don't know. That's probably hopelessly optimistic.
Wendell's going to revolutionize the mining in Minecraft.
The children yearn for the mines.
Oh, no.
That's probably a good place to end it. Thanks for hanging out. Just a fun chat, just some talking heads. Thanks for hanging out.